I'm gonna say it. Wreck is an appropriate title for this movie. Once all is said and done, this whole thing was a wreck. Welcome back, horror fans. I'm Leo, and Bootube Breakdowns is here to save your scary movie night. Right off the bat, Wreck scores a 2.4 out of 10, landing it in our Trash-O-Lantern category. But here's the thing. I've already had to break into an abandoned shaft underneath an apartment complex during a zombie outbreak just to get you this score. In a few minutes, I'll show you exactly why this film earned its rating. If you disagree with my score at the end of the video, be sure to let me know how much you want to jump off the 9th floor and splatter all over the lobby. And then be sure to like, share, and subscribe about it in the comment section. This one's going to be rather short. A reporter follows some firefighters during the night shift to show the secret lives of these heroes as people sleep. They get a call to help a sick woman that needs medical attention in a building, and so they head over there. Things seem normal enough until they get to the sick woman's room and she attacks everyone. In the blink of an eye, the entire building is on lockdown by the government to contain the outbreak of an unknown disease. We spend the rest of the movie watching people descend into chaos while more zombies show up. Yeah, there are zombies in this movie. I'll get to that. And they scramble for survival. About an hour later, we somehow end up in a dark room with a, hey, this movie isn't what you think twist at the end. The main character is dragged into the darkness, and it's a found footage film, so this totally could have happened, bro. I kind of like the setup for this story in the beginning. Here's a young reporter who follows up a group of firefighters to report on what they do while people sleep. The night is mostly boring until they get a call to a building with a sick woman. The woman turns out to be a zombie, maybe, we'll get to that in a second. And before anyone can blink, the entire building is closed off by the government and declared a containment zone. Now it is a game of survival to get out of the building alive. At face value, the story flows naturally and is overall believable until you actually watch it. The whole thing is a chaotic, reactionary plotline where a group of people just do things without rhyme or reason. On the one hand, you can argue that this is exactly how a group of people would react in this high-stress situation. On the other hand, I always point out to the lone wolf problem. There's always someone in these situations who says, no, we're not doing that, and then takes matters into their own hands without reliance on the group. Once we get the zombie lady, we spend the rest of the movie basically watching Argentinians arguing in the basement until more zombies show up to move the plot along. All of this culminates in an ending that, in tried and true 2000s found footage fashion, has nothing to do with the whole story and simply comes off as, haha, plot twist, right guys? It's a poorly executed attempt at an interesting story that, as far as I'm concerned, barely gets a 4 out of 10. Holy shit, this movie is a mess. There's no rhyme or reason to the whole thing. In the first 10 minutes, the reporter girl is filming regretting all her life choices as a reporter, and in hindsight, I should have taken this as a warning for the rest of the film. Suddenly, there's 30 minutes of just chaotic arguing and yelling between the building manager, the residents, and the firefighters as they walk up the stairs, go into the first zombie attack, and then walk down the stairs. All of this until the Argentinian CDC shows up, and then there's 30 minutes of boring interviews with the residents, when then we finally dial it back to 11 with, hey guys, there's zombies everywhere now. Quick, let's go to the abandoned basement to escape. Oh, by the way, there's an abandoned basement we could have gone to escape. Now they're in the abandoned basement, the ending happens, and I'll save it to the end because that ending is really something to discuss. Anyways, it's all just chaos and irrelevant conversations behind walls, around corners, and inside secret rooms that are meant to convey a sense of realism and fear, but just kind of comes off as loud and annoying. Pacing for this one gets a 3 out of 10. If your idea of scary is a movie where nothing happens, there's sudden shaky cams, loud yells, and tomato sauce in every corner of a room, then yeah, 10 out of 10, scariest story in existence. This film was mostly boring and loud. The zombies were boring and cheap. It's literally loud yells while the camera shakes and nothing gets seen on screen. Then there's reliance on cheap scares everywhere you see. The scenes where someone jumps from the stairs and splatters on screen was just there to break up an argument that dragged on for way too long, and it was all just done so the rest of the plot could happen. There's no lasting or lingering scenes that will have you looking under your bed when you get home, and ironically you walk out feeling more like this could never happen than with the feeling of dread the film wanted you to have. There's a final zombie creature thing that I can only describe as a water hag from The Witcher 3, and that would have been much more interesting to pursue, but thanks to the found footage format, we're left with something that is just boring. I give the fear factor of this movie a 0 out of 10. The small budget of this film means that they had to get creative in some aspects, and I'll take my time to give the movie credit where it is due. There's actually a few horror elements that I actually kind of enjoyed. For starters, the setup was actually great. The interview aspect, rather than faux candid approach, was a small breath of fresh air in the middle of all the found footage dog shit that was being churned out at the time. The creature in the ending was actually pretty well done considering the small budget and the CGI of the time. The origins of the disease stay kind of vague, and there was a good-hearted attempt at some realism in this film once all is said and done. I'll say that watching it, you can get a sense that the film had the potential to be much better under more talented hands. I didn't even hate the acting on this one. I feel like the actors took their roles very seriously and did the best they could with what they had. If they would have thrown the whole found footage aspect out the window and instead just made a straightforward zombie movie, it would have been a better received project instead of just another piece of shit to add to the found footage slop of the era. I'm gonna give the fun factor for this film a 4 out of 10. As I've already mentioned before, in the tried and true 2000s found footage format, we get noisy, shaky cams for an hour that can best be described as an extended preview for a better film that will never be made. The last two survivors head to the abandoned shaft under the building to escape, and while in there they encounter something weird. There's newspaper clippings which insinuate that experiments were being conducted on victims of possession in an attempt to clone these possessed people. Something went wrong, and instead, zombies were made? Anyways, if allowed to progress to its final form, the zombies will likely turn into a water hag. Yes, like the ones from The Witcher 3 who cannot see green light or whisper to people who are 3 feet away. The last two survivors walk past the creature and try to escape before horror cliche number 5730 literally kicks in, and dumb blonde character kicks a can very loudly, which alerts the creature and starts a chase in pitch blackness. Things quiet down for a second. She crawls towards the green filter camera, then she gets dragged from her feet into the darkness. What a piece of dog shit. Hopefully this movie doesn't get 3 sequels and an American remake. Oh, fuck me. The monster thing looked good for its time and budget, so I guess I'll give it a 1 out of 10. So that's Bootube Breakdowns' take on Wreck. Averaging our score gives this movie a 2.4 out of 10, which places it in our Trash-O-Lantern category. Do you agree with my rating? Scream your score in the comments and tell me what horror flick I should gut next. If this saved your spooky vibes, smash that like, share with your horror crew, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to Bootube Breakdowns for more killer verdicts. Keep it creepy, and I'll haunt you in the next review.